Will Sutton be smiling like a Cheshire cat, or can Ingram close the gap at the top? This is the Oulton Park preview.
Hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast. We are coming into round 4 of the season at Oulton Park.
In Cheshire.
In Cheshire, yes.
Hence the
last one before the sort of like mid-season break, which is coming a little bit early this year.
The 40% break.
The 40% break, yes, quite. And we've obviously seen quite a lot of dominance from a certain Mr. Ash Sutton so far this season. So will anything change this weekend? How are you, Russ?
I'm all right. I'm looking forward to a sofa weekend, the first of the season for us too. We haven't been on the sofa as of yet for a touring car weekend. So looking forward to a little slight change of pace this weekend with that. I like Oulton Park. It's a good circuit. It's a tight circuit with lots of complicated corners and tricky bits, as well as some longer straights. So with the weather that is potentially coming this weekend as well, it could be quite a difficult one to call.
That is the main reason that I'm looking forward to sitting on the sofa, I must admit.
Yeah, I'm just prefacing all my predictions going wrong now by saying it's hard to call, just to give myself a little bit of an excuse later on. And of course, it is also the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend. So why watch that when you can watch the touring cars?
I knew you were
guarantee there'll be more action at Oulton Park
There
than there will be at Monaco for sure.
Yeah, it's always famed for being, as you mentioned, very tight and technical. So it'll be
Monaco or Oulton Park?
Both.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see how the touring cars manage it this weekend.
Absolutely. So we'll start with our usual stat packing game, which shows who's done the research and who hasn't. So Oulton Park, Tarporley in Cheshire. We have 9 corners, 2.26 miles. We don't do the full circuit. We do the 3/4 size circuit, which includes sort of the bowl and the longer hairpin, but not the longest hairpin, the mid hairpin, as it were. 2.26 miles. So on the longer side of a touring car race, debuted in 1960. Sam, would you like to guess who has the qualifying lap record here?
Let's go for Ash Sutton.
No. Would you like to have a second guess?
Ingram?
Yes. He set it last year with a 1 minute 23.9 when rounded. Would you like to guess who has the race lap record?
Camish.
No.
Go on then.
Ingram. Also set last year a 1:24.0 when rounded. So very close to the qualifying lap record. So we could see another weekend of virtue dominance this weekend, because it is a track that has historically suited the Hyundais. Chris Smiley picking up his first podium of the season last year here as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether that form continues this weekend.
I think it probably needs to continue. If we're going to have a much more interesting championship, then I certainly think it needs to be an Ingram weekend that he needs to dominate and possibly see some issues for Sutton and Napa.
Well, you mentioned that. So if we go back to last year, obviously Ingram took pole, as I intimated there with the lap time. Race 1 was won by Ingram from Camish from Smiley. Sutton swapped to 4th on the last lap, if you remember, to avoid the hard tyre option. Race 2 was then Sutton, Morgan and Chilton. Ingram got a 4th on the worst tyre and sparked a lot of debate afterwards about how that car was handling the tyre situation. And then race 3 was a wet race last year. Shedden won that from Sutton from Rowbottom. In terms of the 2 championship protagonists, and I think we can already say there's only 2 in this race, Sutton had a 4th, a 1st and a 2nd, and Ingram had a 1st, a 4th and a 4th. So you might be thinking it's going to be another nip and tuck weekend. However, if there is a circuit where Sutton has problems, it is here. So in 2024, Sutton had a 12th, a 16th and an 18th. That was the year of the body flap, wheel arch, and then into the pit wall at the start of race 3. In 2023, a second and a retirement. I think that one he went for a quite interesting move off the start line and got squeezed. 2022, a second and a 16th. So fell down. And I certainly remember when we went, he was in the Infiniti and he was going backwards down Deer's Leap at one point as well, and had a puncture. So if you are looking for a championship that might exist after 4 rounds, this might be the track that allows Ingram to get a little bit closer.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we've probably got to be hoping for. We know Ingram is pretty strong everywhere he goes. It's just whether he can back that up this weekend, and then whether he can also have some teammates to get in there and make it a lot more interesting. Obviously, we've seen Collard have decent form so far this season and be a fairly key protagonist in being an ally to Ingram, but can Chilton step up this weekend? It seems to go and fluctuates for Chilton. He normally has a good weekend followed by a bad weekend followed by a good weekend.
I'm sure he'll suggest it would depend on the proximity of Charles Rainford.
I would say that last time out at Snetterton was a decent weekend for him, so maybe we won't see a brilliant one from him this time out. Let's see if he can turn those fortunes around.
It is worth noting at this stage that there is some chatter that the Napa engine will be turned down by a couple of horsepower. I have been looking into this today and have not found any official directive as of yet. To be fair, that will probably only be announced on the Saturday morning, I would have thought. So keep an eye on if at all. So keep an eye on that throughout the weekend. I have to say, and we touched on this in our May recap, that I am fundamentally against this. I don't want to talk too much because at the minute it's not been confirmed, but as a general principle, I'm not a fan of having engines turned down when a car is performing. I'd also point to the fact that Virtue had a very strong engine last year that didn't get turned down.
Yep.
And I'd also point to the fact that Camish, Selby and Osborne aren't completing the top 4 places each weekend either. So we'll have to see if that is true or not. Obviously, that will be picked up over the weekend, but fundamentally, I don't like the idea of that particularly.
No, and the other little bit of news that we've seen murmuring amongst the grapevines is a possible another Virtue driver. They've taken on a Japanese driver who seems to have a decent amount of financial backing behind him as a quote reserve driver for the season. And we all know that there is the possibility that Collard may not complete the season. He's already said that he's only really got a deal together for half the season so far.
Yep.
And whether he can complete the deal for the rest of the season is yet to be seen. If you're going on form from the start of the season, he fully deserves to keep his seat for the full season. But that's unfortunately not how the touring cars plays out at the moment.
The driving question is, and I do apologise to any listeners if I get this wrong, is Osamu Kawashima, who appears to have joined, as you said, in the reserve seat role. There are 2 ways of looking at this. Obviously, I echo everything you say there about Ricky Collard, and I think the series would be a lot poorer about him, not just for his character off the track, but he's also been excellent on the track this year. There is, of course, potentially a flip side that it might bring in, like we saw with the Yuki Tsunoda racing in F1, there was a renewed interest from Japanese market, and it might bring to us some Honda backing into the series again, or maybe Mazda, or
Toyota,
yeah, exactly.
Further Toyota backing.
I'm not sure Mazda is Japanese actually. Is it?
Yeah.
No, it is. I thought it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, it might bring in some other manufacturers if there are more eyes on a competition. So there will be pros and cons. As I say, at the minute, he's only looking at the reserve seat role, but we do know, of course, as you've said, that Collard has intimated that he has only got half a season under his belt at the moment. Thankfully, he has got a nice long break coming to hopefully muster the support. And let's be honest, he's certainly put a good advert out for himself in the opening part of the season. But we'll watch this space on that side of things.
Definitely. So looking forward to the weekend then. We'll go through the schedule first of all, if that's all right.
That's fine with me.
So on the Saturday, obviously, we have the qualifying followed by qualifying race. So that will take place at 2:00 for the qualifying session, followed by 3:05 for the actual race to pole,
Event.
which is going to be 10 laps at Oulton Park.
It's not really a sprint, is it?
No, not really.
But
and then, as we all know, the Sunday at Oulton Park always starts pretty much bang on midday because of the surroundings that they're in. So the pit lane will open at 12:10 for a 12:25 first British touring car race, which is 15 laps. Second touring car race starts at 2 to 3, again 15 laps, all subject to change depending on safety cars and other races and what's going on. And then the final race will be at 5:20. And what's quite nice is there is a race to follow that touring car event, which hopefully should make it a little bit easier for some people to get out the circuit afterwards.
Absolutely. With the qualifying and sprint to pole event race thing, it is likely to be wet on the Saturday. It'll be very interesting to see how that affects the field. Obviously, that your front runners will have less of the boost available to them over the laps. However, I think that in the rain that will be equalised quite well. And somebody like Ingram and Sutton is also quicker, but I think Ingram has the edge on a 1 lap pace personally, is my personal view.
Yep.
Certainly a good opportunity to maximise good grid position, and then the actual sprint to race pole event that will take place afterwards.
Oh dear. As part of the timetable this weekend, we have the Scottish Legends Championship joining us, along with the Porsche Sprint Challenge Great Britain, the Mini Challenge, and also the CTCRC, which is the Classic Touring Car Championship, basically. And that will be a certain era of touring cars within that as well.
Yeah, no F4s for this weekend. If you are looking out for those, they will not be on the calendar for this weekend. It's an interesting support package.
It's always going to be a little bit smaller at Oulton because of the limited time factor on the Sunday. I think that combination is quite nice to see something so different as well
absolutely.
come to one weekend a year at the very least.
Yeah, I remember I went to Croft a couple of years ago and they had classic touring cars there, and you had minis trying to overtake the long American Cadillac-y style cars, and it was very fun to watch. So, yeah, as you say, it has a little bit of variety and gives the spectators who'll be trackside something a little bit different than the usual Toka Sport package, which is of course brilliant in its own right, but it is always nice to get a little bit of variety and new bits from here, and also potentially for those championships to get a few more eyes on them. And
definitely,
I'll be honest with you, until the Legends had been on the touring car calendar, I'd never heard of them, and now I very much enjoy being able to watch them when I can, because they are very fun to watch.
Agreed. What are your thoughts as to the form book for this weekend?
Well,
with the rain, are we going to see a massive shake-up, or are we going to see a fairly status quo?
One thing on that, we're assuming it'll be wet. Every weather prediction suggests it will rain, which means it will be bone dry and 30 degrees. But assuming it does rain, I think the big question this weekend is going to be, we spoke a lot at Snetterton about engine troubles for the M Sport engine cars. Are they going to be a problem this weekend as well? There seemed to be a suggestion it was down to heat at Snetterton. There have been some grumblings online that it's not actually a heat problem, it's the engine problem. I personally don't buy that. I just think that the Ford and Hyundai engine are better because they've been manufactured by the race cars themselves. They're not, quote, stock engines that have been plugged into a car. They've been specifically manufactured for that particular chassis. But it'd be interesting to see whether those cars are going to be back up to speed this weekend. Again, I'm not expecting to be able to necessarily compete with those manufacturer engines on a straight line, but the difference was noticeable, particularly amongst PMR at Snetterton, who seemed to struggle the most. Obviously, Shedden did win a race on the, quote, lower performing engine. So, yeah, it'd be interesting if those problems have been fixed for this weekend, if it was just a heat issue, or if there is a wider problem, because there are some long straights on this circuit where engine power is going to be key, particularly if the boost isn't going to be as effective due to the rain. Yeah,
I think if we are going to get that wetter weather, obviously it'll bring temperatures down naturally, and that will really tell us whether the difference...
Too cold.
Whether the difference is in the ambient temperature or whether there is something more critical with those engine builds themselves. I personally think that Toyota and PMR are going to have a fairly strong weekend. Obviously, we saw Shedden win here last time out, or in 2025. Yes, it was a very defensive win, but it was almost a classic Shedden kind of win nowadays.
Yeah, and it's also important to point out that that race was not only was it in the wet, but that was when Shedden was still running the hamster in a wheel engine from last year before they made the switch over, and he was able to get the win against all odds, really, because the car, or the engine, was dreadful for the first half of last season. I think you're right. I think the circuit does suit the Corolla shape and potentially the PMR Audi, which will come here with a bit more boost if that isn't completely nullified by the rain. Obviously, Mikey Doble has gone well here in the past. He's taken a podium here, from memory serves me right. Jake Hill nipping his first win away from him in 23.
Yeah.
But I also think the BMW goes well here as well. Again, I know that will be slightly curtailed by the rain, potentially. But it also depends. The BMW in full wet is fine, and full dry it's fine. It's that greasy middle ground that's the difficulty. And if the weather is as advertised, it's going to be wet, and therefore they can go full wet setup. And we know that Charles Rainford is good in wet conditions. And as I say, that car is better when it's fully wet. It struggles in the medium, almost intermediate, which we don't have, but almost intermediate setup, because you have to set the car up either wet or dry. Yes, you can go a little bit in between, but that does seem to be where the BMW struggles.
Yeah, I think that's more down to putting power down onto the circuit in those kind of conditions. Should we get on to predictions?
We can do. I've got to find my predictions, but yeah, we will go on to predictions.
So obviously we've got our full weekend predictions. We'll take a look through the Saturday, the Sunday, and also 3 generals as we normally do. And if you haven't done already, please do subscribe down below. Make sure you click that like button, get the bell on as well so you don't miss any of our forthcoming podcasts. And we'll keep you up to date with all the news throughout the season.
Absolutely. We'll start then with our poll. So this is who's going to set the fastest time in qualifying. So
Yes.
not the race to, not where they'll start Sunday necessarily, but who starts on pole for the race to sprint event pole thing that will happen on Saturday afternoon. Which I think this has got the potential to be one of the better ones at Oulton Park, because I think that it's a circuit that naturally leads itself to overtaking. I think if you sprinkle in the rain as well, that's a potentially interesting factor. And I will say that Oulton Park has similarities to Brands Hatch insofar as that there are clear overtaking areas, and I think Brands Hatch so far has been the best sprint to pole race that we've had. What I will be interested to see is whether it follows the pattern of what we've seen so far, which is the first few laps quite interesting, and then it sort of peters out as teams and drivers don't necessarily want to risk too much, but we'll have to see how that pans out on the Saturday.
Who have you gone for pole then?
Chiltern. I think that the Virtue engine is going to be strong here. I think that I've hedged my bets slightly because I don't know how wet it's going to be and then how much that's going to offset the boost, but I think that Chiltern will have the most boost out of Ingram, Collard and himself. And if that does come into play, I think that will then give him the edge on the rest of the field of that engine. I think that engine is going to dominate this weekend.
I think you've got to hope that Chiltern doesn't have a bad Chiltern weekend as well.
I would also say Chiltern was very quick at Snetterton and took pole there. And I think that he has got really good one-lap pace in the car. I think where he's struggling in that car is either he's got to battle somebody or if just general race pace over a race.
I have gone for Marky Doble. As I've already said, I think the PMR is going to bounce back quite well this weekend. I spoke to him very quickly at Snetterton about the possible engine issues, and he said to me that it was very much down to heat. And if the heat wasn't there that we did have at Snetterton, he reckons he would have been in the top 5 most of the weekend.
Yeah, and he ran well at Brands Hatch in wet conditions.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't be stunned if that one came true. Although I'd also say I wouldn't write off Moffat in these conditions either.
Agreed.
But, yeah. For your sprint to pole winner,
I've gone for Shedden. I have this sneaky suspicion that the Toyotas are going to do rather well this weekend. And with the form that he's had earlier on in the season, obviously taking that win at Snetterton as well, he'll be on some sort of high and he'll look to continue that into that quite mid-season break. And we know how well he went here last year, and that was a very defensive win, but I think he'll be a little bit more expressive this year.
Fair play. I've gone for Morgan. I think that Cataclysm Mercedes car will be strong here. I think it's a circuit that will suit them. I think that the only thing that might undo them slightly is if it's somewhere in between weather-wise. I think they'll have a wet setup and a dry setup. It's about finding those margins for a new team coming to the grid in the in-betweeny bits. But if it's one or the other, I quite fancy that car to do quite well this weekend.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on to the Sunday then, and we've got 3 race winners that we can pick from. I have gone for Ingram, Doble and Taylor Smith.
Okay.
I think Taylor Smith's got that burden off his back of getting that 5th win.
He was nowhere at Snetterton though.
He was nowhere at Snetterton, but I think that was more down to a setup issue and issues that he had on the Saturday. I think he'll be much clearer coming into this weekend of where he wants the car to be and the base setting that they may well have had from last year.
Potentially. Do you want to talk about any of the other two? I mean, Ingram is the safe bet, isn't he?
Ingram's Ingram.
Yeah.
The only surprise is I haven't gone for a Sutton win.
Well, nor have I. I have gone for Ingram as well. I think that you just have to expect he'll pick something up this weekend. I've also gone for Ricky Collard. I think he will break that duck this weekend. As I say, I think that the car will be by far and away the best in the field, and I really fancy, if it's wet as well, Collard is excellent at Brands Hatch in the wet conditions. He'll also, I think it's worth pointing out that he'll know this track quite well from GT as well.
Yes.
I just fancy the car's going to do it this weekend.
Okay.
And then I've gone for Josh Cook, similar vein to Shedden last year. I can see a race 3. He's not the greatest start to the season. Cook a little bit of problems with the car, with the setup and how it's all feeling, etc. But the way that the weekend is set up, if you can just plod away in race 1 and 2 and get a little bit of luck maybe with the reverse grid in race 3, you saw last year with Shedden that if you've not got the best car, you can get to victory. And Cook is also quite good in the wet conditions as well. And to add even further, if it is wet, that is always the great leveller.
It is. It is. Your Jack Sears prediction for the weekend then?
James Dorlin, he's really impressed me so far. Absolutely commanding the Jack Sears at the moment. He is top as we go into this round. And again, he's in the Hyundai, which I think, okay, it's not the Virtue Hyundai,
yep,
but it's the same chassis. And we saw Smiley go well here last year. I expect a strong performance from Dorlin this weekend.
I think it's going to be a toss-up between 3 drivers. So it's
that's bold. That's half the field. So yeah, okay.
So it's just a case of picking one out, and I've gone for Patterson. We know that he's had good early form in Jack Sears. He's probably been unlucky not to be further up from where he is. Yes, it was a disappointing weekend last time out at Snetterton, but I think he wants to bounce back with the Jack Sears win.
Fair enough. We'll move into our general 3 predictions then. Would you like to kick things off?
I have gone for PMR to outscore Napa this weekend. So that's all 3
You really are going in the PMR.
I am. Any hospitality, yeah, I'm free to take it.
I mean, some of our fans will be very pleased with your PMR predictions here. But
so yeah, all 3 Audis to outscore all 4 Napa Fords.
That is,
I just have a feeling that the Ford might struggle this weekend.
I understand, and I kind of agree, which is why I've also gone for an outscoring of Napa, but by Virtue, bit more safe. I just think that the only thing that would worry me about the PMR prediction you've made there is that it just takes an out of control car to slide into the door handle.
Especially in the rain.
Exactly. To slide into the door handle of one of them.
But it could happen to a Ford as well.
Yeah.
And there are more of them on the grid. It's more likely to happen to them.
Statistically speaking, yes. But yeah, I think it's brave. But
there's a collard about.
I think with the first one I jumped to, but you are also so far ahead in the predictions at the moment. You can probably afford to be a little bolder than I. As I say, I've gone for Virtue to outscore Napa, so 4v4.
Okay.
I wouldn't actually be surprised if Hamilton outscores one of the drivers this weekend as well. I think Nick gets points.
Fair enough. My second prediction is at least 2 Toyota podiums. So any one of the 4 Toyota drivers, or 2 or 3, yeah.
So and to be clear, this is the Sunday only.
Yes, Sunday only.
And it's the main podium only.
Correct.
Just so we can be absolutely clear. Yep, no problem at all.
Toyota to finish inside the top 3 in each race, or not each race, but at least 2 of the races.
And it can be the same driver.
Yes.
It's not going to be 2 different ones. Nope. Just, okay. No, it's always good to get these things.
I know how you like to clarify.
I'm so far behind. I need to find any loophole I can early. I've gone for the same team will win all 3 independent races. So not necessarily the same driver, but the same team. Okay. So it might be Rainford and De Leon win all 3 races between them, or
all 3 PMRs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So don't have to be the same driver, but it will be the same team that wins all 3 of the independent races.
Okay. And finally, I've gone for at least 2 safety car periods this weekend.
In touring car races.
In touring car races on the Sunday.
Good to clarify.
I just think with the possible inclement conditions we're going to have, it's a tight circuit. There's normally incidents and the barriers aren't too far away, unfortunately.
No, you're right. There's a lot of undulations and
there's a couple of gravel traps which suck cars in, and in the wet conditions, sometimes you get out of them, sometimes you don't. I just think we'll get a bit of incident.
Yep, no, fair enough. My last one is that I think Buxton gets his first points of the season. I think
I considered that.
I'm leaning heavily into it because of the rain, and again, I said it before, it's the great leveller. I actually thought... I think that he's been a little bit unlucky to a degree. I think the car just isn't quite there, and I think Cook is massively overperforming it. But I also think this could be the weekend that can, like last year, kick-started Toyota's season a little bit. Maybe they'll be looking for the same here with Buxton. That's the one of the 3 I'm least confident on, I have to say. But yeah, I think I can see it happening.
Currently, the score is 7-4 to me.
7-4 to you, yeah. I've got a little bit of work to do.
It's a little bit of a gap, but obviously you've had 2 non-school weekends in a row, so you're looking to bounce back and be better.
Yeah, I think that is fair to say. But see if I can get myself back onto the tally. So if I go 3 without scoring, then I really am in trouble. Just a believable player on his day. I think, the streets will forget. Just before we start to round up, we will just bring you up to speed of where everybody is standing. Not literally, we'll be on the sofa, as I said, but in terms of the actual competition, Sutton sits atop of the pile on 174 from Tom Ingram on 117, so 57 points back.
Massive margin.
Big margin. Ingram can literally win all 3 races, and it might not still be enough to go top, assuming Sutton scores once, which is... yikes. Rainford, back in the mix now in 3rd on 106. Dan Camish, we're not really spoken much about him, in 4th on 99. Ricky Collard on 94. De Leon 92. Shedden 83. Doble 79. Morgan back in the top 10 now on 73, and Chiltern rounds that off on 68. The Jack Sears, I'm going to come back to the independents because that one is absolutely mad at the moment. Jack Sears, Doran leads the way. He's got a 10-point gap on Patterson. 145 plays 135. Osborne not too far back on 117. Selby only 1 point behind him on 116.
Selby had a really strong Snetterton, quietly strong as well.
Agreed. Nick Hamilton, 94 points. Obviously, he had a really good Snetterton. Yep. And then Max Buxton on 71. Then the independent. This is where it's getting really interesting. So at the minute, Shedden leads the way on 1-2-3 against Mikey Doble. Also 1-2-3. Shedden leads that on races 1. De Leon on 1-2-1 from Rainford on 120. This just shows how crazy it is in that Rainford is far ahead of De Leon in the overall championship, but obviously the gaps are a lot smaller in the way the independence is scored. If you're new and don't quite understand the independence, basically there's 9 in here, so if you finish, you'll be scored 1 to 9. So you could finish 7th on the road, but first in your independent category, so you'll get your full 25 points for the independent and your points for 9th in the main. Then we have Moffat back on 111, so not a million miles away back. Then a little bit of a gap opening up to Smiley, but he's only, 19 points? No.
9.
No, 21 points off lead.
Oh, off the lead, sorry.
Yep, at 102. You can see why I miscounted last night at darts as well. Taylor Smith on 99. James Doyle on 87 and Patterson on 82. So that
it amazes me how far down Aaron Taylor Smith and Dorlin are in that championship table, but we know that everything can change. I
think Taylor Smith it's how bad Snetterton was, because going into the Snetterton weekend, if I go back, he was 4th in the independent standings on 72. So he's he had a pretty poor Snetterton and has only scored 27 points at Snetterton, which I think in that series in particular, with how close it is and the fact that you've got the BMW boys in the independent category this year, it's so hard to call. We're going to see that fluctuate throughout the season. And I think that's why, if you were to kick up a fuss about my prediction about all 3 independent drivers or teams, that's what was going to be my argument back. But you didn't, so I didn't need to.
That's fine.
Just to pick up on something that we've touched on in our May update as well, we will come back to Boost in the summer. It's complicated. We're not going to talk about it apart from if there's any instance this weekend, and we'll come back and revisit that properly in the summer, and we can properly sit down and maybe hopefully even speak to a driver about how it all works, so we can be fully across, because it is complicated with very similar wording used across various different systems. So we'll come back to that.
But we will be back, obviously, on Saturday evening to bring you the update from the qualifying and also the race to pole and our reactions to that. We will then also bring you an update probably on Monday evening of the full race day on Sunday and all the action that happens there before we go into this mid-season break.
And just because the break is coming up, it doesn't mean we are stopping. There'll be content. We're looking to really start in earnest the TikTok channel. I know we've said that before, but we've actually done a planning meeting, which I made Sam sit down with a pen to get this looked at properly.
On my
phone. Well, I went analog. I went the old-fashioned way of a notebook and a pen. So we will be looking to launch that in earnest in the summer break. And also, if there's any particular content you want us to cover in that period, I've got, I think it's a 6 or 7 week break. So there's plenty of content we can put in there. So if you've got any particular requests, anything you want us to cover, whether that be driver profiles, retrospecs, opinions on anything in particular, drop a comment or drop something to our Facebook page, etc. And we have got a plan for some content in the summer, but we're also flexible and fluid and can change to accommodate if there's anything in particular people want to see.
Yeah, we'll of course bring you news updates at the end of each month as well.
If there are any.
Even if there is the minimal amount, we'll find something to talk about. We always do. But until Saturday evening, we'll be back and see you then.
Bye for now.